Hey everybody, in this session I'm going to walk you through map testing for teacher proctors that we'll be administering here at Colegio Roosevelt. So map test is short for measures of academic progress, and it's an adaptive test that we administer here across reading, language use, or math, depending on your division. And in this process today, what I want to do is show you how to I want to familiarize you with the different proctor tools that we have, walk you through the process of setting up a test session, give you a little tour of the dashboard so you feel really comfortable and confident administering this when we have this upcoming in the next few weeks. So first of all, please make your way to the slide deck. This will also be shared with you, and you can see there's a short URL right here. And the first thing I'm going to do is also just tell you, I'm not going to present this in full screen mode because I'm going to want to toggle back and forth between this slideshow and also the NWA website as I'm going to be kind of talking about these things anonymously. So moving on, the first thing you'll do is you'll just grab this and copy this, teach at matnwa.org, and this will bring you to this login prompt. So you'll sign in using your school email. So I'm just going to do that. And by the way, just follow along with me if you are following from home. And this brings you to your dashboard. And if you forgot your username or password, just go ahead and click that, and it'll give you the option of resetting that. So now that I'm here, this brings me to my testing session. You're going to see there's two different buttons here. And from the left-hand navigation bar, there's this over here, it says Manage Test Sessions. And so I'm just going to click over here, and you can see there's two buttons to choose from. Finding students to test is if you want to individually search for them, which some people in learning support or ESL might choose to do. But your administrators have actually created class rosters based on the classes that you teach. So we'll be doing this during an A day and an E day. You might be testing your advisory or the first block of the day. And in that case, what you're going to do is you're going to select Test My Class. So I'm just going to test my class, and you'll see there's a list of all my classes that I currently teach. And I'm just going to click my, click my G block design class. Do not click your G block class right now. Please just test the class that you've been scheduled to proctor at that time. So now that I'm here, this brings me to what's called my setup testing session. And I'm going to give you a little bit of a tour of the dashboard and how this looks. So first of all, you'll see all the names of my students in that class here. And the first thing it's going to do is it's going to ask you to assign a test to these students. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select status, select all students, and I'm going to assign a test. Now, I also want to be really clear about this. There's a number of tests that are missing, or not, that are listed in the drop-down fields. And so I'm really clear about the ones that we are administering here. If you notice here, this says growth reading 6+. So this is the one we're going to administer in the middle school on May 4th. And the math test we're going to administer on May 11th. So just make sure that you select these and you are really explicit about that, because if you drop down, you'll see there's a lot of other tests here. These are going to be administered in the elementary. And also, just to be clear, you're not going to select the screening test. So it's growth reading 6+. So I'm just going to go down here and find growth reading 6+, and I'm going to select that. I'm going to click assign. So you'll see that my test assignment has now been entered into this field here. And the next thing you're going to do is you're going to write this session name and password on the board. Make sure to also pay attention to capitalization conventions here. So you'll really clearly write this, and the students, when they join your test, they will join this via this testing session that you set up. So you don't need to put the proctor pin, but you do need to put this session name and password. And the next thing I'm going to do is walk you through student steps and how students will see this, and also how to then troubleshoot issues that may come up. So students will then log into this test via their lockdown browser that they hopefully should have installed on their computers. And once they do, they're going to see a page that looks like this. So once again, you're going to have the session name and password on the board. So in my case, it's going to say AIC3451. Not the most appealing sort of session name, and then the password there. And once they sign in, they're going to have their name as a drop-down list. So they'll actually select their name, and then you as a teacher are going to kind of confirm their information. So one thing you're going to do is once you see them join your session, you are going to see to be confirmed. And then when you hit confirm, that will then take them to the next step, which will allow them to start their test. So you can see here in this next sort of slide here, it says, please wait for the proctor to confirm your information. You'll see that it says growth. Now, also just to be clear, you are not going to do the language 2 through 12. We're doing the growth just over here, the reading 6+ on Wednesday, and then math on the following Wednesday. So once they come here, you will then be asked to read a certain prompt. And this is just to norm the test. And this testing tips and script document is in here for all teachers, but I'll take you here just to show you what this looks like. So once you click this view PDF, it takes you to a 6-page document that has some troubleshooting tips as well. But what you're going to do just to norm this testing session is you're going to say this script here. So if you'll see there, this is what they have, and you're going to basically read the script. You're not going to read the math script because it's not math testing. And then if you're testing reading or language usage, you will also add this little addendum right here. So from that, this then comes to the next step, which is confirming students. So, as I said, what you'll do is you will see this little sort of text. It says action needed to be confirmed. And once that's done, you will confirm. So you'll see right here what on this slide, it says these 3 top students that say awaiting students, and this student is to be confirmed. So when the student has been confirmed, it takes them to that, and then they're able to start their test, and then they're finally confirmed. So with that being said, I want to then go into the next step of this sort of training that will walk you through the process of, like, what do you do if a student needs to take a break, or how do you also troubleshoot problems? Because sometimes with map tests, there are some little bugs and snafus that happen. So you want to just make sure that you guys feel comfortable with this and know how to deal with these as needed. So the first thing is if students need to take a break, if students need to use the bathroom, get a drink of water, that is completely possible. What you'll do is you'll simply select their name from the left side over here. And you're going to, if you look here where it says select actions, there's a button here that says pause. So, they haven't actually confirmed this testing session, so there's nothing to pause. But once that they're in the test, you'll have the ability to pause their test. So once they've done that and they've paused and they've come back and they've sat down, you'll simply then click on their name again and you'll hit resume. So this is a really common thing that some students will have. Another thing that'll also happen is at the end of your testing session, you might find there's a small handful of students that are not finished. If they are not finished, you're simply going to select on those students. So if students are, for example, everyone's done except maybe this student and this student and this student, you'll simply go there and you'll select suspend. So that'll just suspend their progress. It won't delete anything. And I also want to just be very clear about this. Do not hit terminate. This is an option. And if you hit terminate, that will delete all of their progress. So please do not do that. Following that, you'll come to the end of your testing session. So what will happen is once the students have either finished or been suspended, you're then going to end your session. And in this case, you really don't have to do anything. I'm just going, if I hit suspend, they would be suspended. But the last thing I'm going to do at the very end is I'm going to hit end my session. And you don't really have to do anything. So it says all you're doing is you're ending this testing session. This will be in our database. You don't have to name this or anything. All you do is just save and exit. You don't have to write your name. I guess if you want to, you can. But there's really no need to do anything. So once you save and exit, you should be fine with that. Now this next part kind of gets into what are called tips and tools. And this is has to do with some of the things that you as a teacher might have to troubleshoot, but also know that we have some people on staff that are going to be floating around and helping you. So if you ever really are unsure, someone from the innovation team can pop in your room and help support you. But these are some things that do pop up, and we just want you to be prepared and just kind of know these going into the proctoring session so you feel comfortable. So the first thing is we have some resources to get your students ready for this. I'm not going to go into all these today, but if you click on this bit.ly link, this takes you to the site that brings you to a set that looks kind of similar to this. So, if you want to actually show students what this is about, you can kind of click on this. This is just a little warm up here. And this kind of just kind of shows people what the interface sort of looks like here. And if you really want to go into maybe like what does like a sample question look like? So what does a practice test look like? You can actually show students that with this right here. So this is like just some resources that have been created by NWEA just to show you and show them what it looks like. If there's any questions or they have any anxiety, you can familiarize them with that. The next part is a great feature that NWA has put in, and I'm actually just going to cancel this before I delete and end my session. It is that there's this rapid guessing alerts feature, and over on the right-hand side, you'll see that there is this small box, and if NWA senses that students are guessing or answering too quickly, they might surmise that the students haven't actually read the questions and are processing them. They might just be answering just to get done with this test, which might make the results invalid. So if this comes up, two things are going to happen. You're going to get an alert here, alerting you to the student that's doing that, but also students will see on their screen this sort of prompt that's kind of pausing their test saying, hey, no need to rush, just raise your hand for help. So maybe there's a student that just has to go to the bathroom and they're just going to breeze through the last 10 questions instead of asking to pause the question, to pause the test. This might be an alert that kind of brings them to reality and says, hey, just make sure to take your time, not go too quickly. A couple more things. These are things that do happen from time to time, and these are just some quick ways to troubleshoot them. If there are troubles with the test, like if a student has answered a question and sometimes it's not moving on to the next question, so it's kind of stuck and they are not allowed to click any buttons, ask them first to do Command R on their test. Another thing you can also do is if a student is taking a test and they're not maybe progressing, what you'll simply do is select the student's name, select Pause Test, and you will then come back and you will say then Resume Test. So this is similar to what I highlighted earlier with the bathroom break. If the student's test is kind of frozen, pause their test and then resume. Now, another thing that can also happen is that does not work. But these two solutions will usually solve all these problems that you'll have 99% of the time. But if the pause or resume feature does not work, you'll simply go suspend and then test again. Now, what this will do is this will kick students out of that testing session. They'll have to relaunch the application and they'll log in again, but it will save all their work. So tell them not to panic. I think some students get really panicky when their test kind of freezes up. Just say, don't worry, we'll get through it. First, do the pause and then resume. That doesn't work. Then hit suspend and then launch their test again and then sign in once again. Another couple problems that may happen also is that a student might be missing from the sign-on list. So if the student status, it must say awaiting students in order to appear, but on your Proctor console, select an action depending on the student status. So if the student is confirmed, you can select do not confirm. The students will then relaunch the application. This will be something that happens before the testing session, but also during the test. Once again, this might happen. If this does happen, you'll simply suspend their work and then you will hit test again. If the student is suspended, then you will simply select test again. You'll have them relaunch your application. So they'll close your NWA lockdown browser, open it back up, and then they'll log in again. Now, this is just a final checklist on the day of the test. So as a teacher, what you should do is go to your website, go to the website, log in with your email, manage testing sessions, find your students to test. From that also, you'll select all students and then you'll assign the test that I highlighted earlier in this video. And most importantly, you'll have the session name and password on the board for reference. So just make sure that you'll have that. The testing session will also be different from the different tests you administer over the course of the coming weeks. So just have different session names and titles there on the board. So that's really it. So hopefully this document here and also this document here that I also shared is also something that you all have in your dashboard. So the PDF is just a nice little guide over here for students and also gives the students some sign-in tips. But you as a teacher are in a much better position to kind of help students troubleshoot these than having students try to frantically read these at the last minute. So if you have any questions, reach out to one of the members of the innovation team or people at the help desk if students don't have their NWA browsers installed, and we will get them set up. If you have any questions, reach out to Gary or Carla or Sergio, and we will help set you up. Thanks a lot.